Hello and welcome to the Art of Being Human. We've been talking about personality and personality traits, and I'm going to review that a little bit today, but I wanted to answer a question that came up after last show that I did. In the last show, somebody asked me, are our traits inborn or are they learned? This is the old nature-nurture conflict that we run into. Nature being that they're inbred, that they're due to our genetics, and nurture, something that we learned or what we have gone through in our lifetime. Our social environment has caused us to have certain attitudes and ideas simply because of the fact that we've lived them. Now, on my opinion, and I'm only giving you my opinion, but I think most of our personality traits are inborn. I think they're genetic. And I base it on certain things. For example, if you have two children or more than two children, then shortly after their birth, by a few weeks, they start to show their personalities. And that personalities are going to be different. One child may be terribly relaxed and another child may be terribly cranky. One seems interested in an outside environment and another person doesn't. So you're learning about your baby. As your baby is growing, he's gradually showing, or she is gradually showing, parts of her personality to you. And you notice that the personality is not the same as the other children that you have. And how did they learn it? Well, they didn't learn it. They're not old enough to learn it. It's just a product of who they are as their brain develops and as their body develops. So that's got to be congenital. And you hear parents say, well, he acts just like his mother. He acts just like his grandmother. He thinks just like his uncle. You know, and how does he learn that? He is an individual in his own right, and he's given a certain amount of genetic material, and I think most of our personality characteristics are due to genetics. Now, I'm not saying that society doesn't play a part, because you can have the things that are innate within you that you show as your personality, and when you learn things and you go through certain experiences, it changes you to a certain degree. So adults will be a combination of what their genetics are and what they have learned through time, what they've experienced through time. And what they've experienced through time has changed them so that they're not exactly all just genetics, but it's for their experiences. They've learned certain things, they have certain attitudes, and that's due to the experience of learning what they've lived. However, to start off with, I think that it's basically genetics. Now, if you take a look at twins, suppose you have twins that are born, and for some unusual reason, they're separated from each other and they're raised in different families. So they're not raised as twins by the same mother and father. So they are away from each other for years, not even knowing of each other's existence. When you bring them back together, if for some reason they're brought back together, their mannerisms, their personalities, their ideas are very much like each other's, not like other people's in the family, but like each other's. Well, how did they get like that? It was in their genetics. So you can have people who are related and very close to each other, separated for long periods of time, and when they do get back together, they're like each other. And they're not like other people in the families that they were raised at. So that's got to be all genetics. You know, I'm a twin. My sister and I are very close. We're fraternal twins. But when I was teaching in Tennessee, I would call my mother and say, you know, I think I'll call my sister today. I haven't talked with her for a while. And then my sister would call my mother and say, you know, I think I'll call Pat. I haven't talked with her for a while. She would get those calls from us because I called her pretty much every day, and she would get those calls from us on the same day, and then we would be calling each other and talking with each other. If I went home, because I was quite a considerable distance from home, and I would just dress in a certain way, I'd finally see my sister, and she was dressed in the same way. It wasn't that we had talked about it, that I was going to wear a blue dress or a red checkered skirt or whatever. It's just something that I I did. I think I'll wear this today. And she would pick the same outfit, or basically the same outfit, the same colors, the same designs. I think I'll wear this today. And nothing was planned. It just happened. Now, I had lunch with a friend of mine the other day, and she says, if you have twins, you pinch one and the other hurts, because there's a closeness between twins, and it's a genetic thing. They grew in their mother's womb together, so of course there is a closeness there. So I tend to think that most of our personality characteristics are genetic in nature, but we can change due to what we have learned. If we've had good experiences or bad experiences, it'll change us in some of the ideas that we have. But we start off with our genetics, and our genetics form the basic part of our personality. And if you talk with anyone who's a psychoanalyst, they will tell you that the basic personality patterns are laid down by age 5. And they show up fairly early. And then after that, learning may change us, develop us, make us think a little bit differently than we did before, and we do get caught up with the environment that we're in, and we are moved by the environment that we are in. But that doesn't change our genetic structure, so a lot of what we are is pure genetics. That's the way that we can explain personality, because you can be like a person in your family. Where did it come from? Well, it's probably genetic. Now, there are a lot of people who don't feel that way, and they feel that everything is learned, and we don't have, and genetics isn't that important, but what we learn is more important. But I don't think that way, because I think personality traits start to show up early on, within a few months of life, where a child wouldn't have had a chance to learn them from a brother or a sister or a parent. It's a part of their genetic structure. Well, if you take our abilities, if you're very gifted in mathematics, or if you're very gifted in music, where did it come from? That has to be genetics. You inherited your abilities, and everything that you learn and what you're good at, you inherited that from your parents, from your grandparents, you know, from an uncle or an aunt. So our abilities are inherited. If our abilities are inherited, then why not our personalities, certain basic personality structures? I think it just goes along with it, and that's my opinion. I can be wrong. I will admit I can be wrong, but I don't think so. And I think the research shows that an awful lot of us and our behavior and our personalities are based upon what we have inherited. And then the learning that we go through can change and modify that. But we start off with the genetics, and I think when we get older, you know, we get more like our parents than less like our parents. I don't know how many people I've heard, I'll never be like my mother, I'll never be like my father. Then lo and behold, as years go by, I'm beginning to think I'm just like my mother or my father, and that's the genetics kicking back in. You never get rid of your genetics. They're a part of you for life. Your traits that are genetic are with you for life. They may be modified by what you learn, and may be changed a little by what you learn, but they're there for life, and you do come from your parents and your grandparents and so forth down the line. So I think the answer is genetics is key here, and genetic is tops here. That's just my opinion. So I just wanted to answer that question. Now, as I've been dealing with personality traits, I did start talking to you about traits, and what traits are characteristics that we have that are permanent. And so going into the theories of personality, and there are a lot of them, so I'm not going to go into all of them, but I did start talking about trait theories of personality, and I'll be just reviewing that a little bit and then going on from there. Traits are a part of us, and here again, I wouldn't be surprised if they were mostly genetic, but the traits are a part of us. And this theory of personality is that you just categorize people according to their traits. Now, this seems pretty simple to me. There's no such thing as a test to test for whether you're right or you're wrong. You know people's traits just by observing their behavior. You know, if they're happy, if they're sad, if they're active, if they're inactive, if they like people, if they shy away from people. And so therefore, you just categorize them as either being socially active or socially inactive, or being pleasant and easy to deal with, or being not so easy to deal with, easy to anger. And you kind of put them in your own categories. As I say, there's no test to show whether this is right or wrong. There's nothing about it, but we tend to think of people in their traits. We tend to think about people according to what their traits are. And when you describe people, you usually describe them according to what their traits are. I have read, and I said before, that some people have categorized 18,000 traits. You know, and they're basically names of characteristics of what people have as their characteristics, about 18,000. And then in the last show, I kind of read off 12 common traits, but they usually listed in pairs, such as he's happy as opposed to being sad. They're active as opposed to being quiet. They're truthful as opposed to being not truthful. You know, they love life as being opposed to not loving life. They want to live and be happy as opposed to not caring. And you can go on and on and on. You think about your own characteristics. You think about your own traits. What are they? Well, I love music, okay, that as opposed to not liking music. Or somebody, you might refer to them as they love to go to school, they love to be educated, as opposed to not wanting to have much education because they don't see the need of it. And on it goes like that. That's how you categorize people by traits. To me, it doesn't have a lot of significance and it doesn't have a lot of meaning, but it's natural for us to think about people in that way. If you go to school, and I've done it myself, make sure you don't take that teacher. Make sure if you're taking a course, take it from that teacher instead. You'll learn a lot more. Or things like that. So the characteristics would be somebody's a good teacher as opposed to somebody is not a good teacher. And it can go on and on and on. I'm not surprised, although at the time I thought about it, I was a little surprised that people have been able to categorize 18,000 traits. Well, if you stop to think about it, anything that is like you, that has something to do with you, your likes, your dislikes, what you like to wear, how you like to dress, what you like to listen to, what you like to talk to, you know, what you prefer for company, who you prefer for company. You can list all of those things as traits. You can list everything about a person as a trait. You have blonde hair. You have blue eyes, you have brown eyes, you get angry, you don't get angry, you're reasonable, you're not reasonable, you love pets, you don't love pets, you know, any single thing that can categorize you as a human being, because you have to remember that personality is a combination of everything about you, your likes, your dislikes, your politics, your religion, everything about you, what you wear, what you don't wear. You know, your style, what you like and what you don't like in terms of clothing, in terms of going to school, who you like to have as friends, who you don't like to have as friends, and the characteristics about other people that you like, the characteristics about other people that you don't like, that defines you in a way because you stay away from the people that you don't like, but you want to be friends with people that you do like, or whether you're a loner and you don't want to be with people at all. Or you want to have tons of people around you, whether you like to live in the city, whether you like to live in the country, where you like to be in a place that's populated with a lot of people, whether you like crowds, whether you'd really be by yourself. And if you're going to watch something, you don't want to go to a stadium to see it. You want to watch it at home on television because you don't like crowds. Any single thing that has to do with you can be classed as part of your personality, but you could also say it's a trait. And if you consider all of that, it's not terribly surprising that some people have been able to come up with 18,000 of them. So it's not much of a theory, but this is the way that we view people a lot of times, and so we just have to realize that this is the way that we are viewing people, and it is listed as a personality theory. Now, another type of personality theory is the introvert-extrovert theory. And I want to mention there are two ways of spelling introvert and extrovert. Introvert can be spelled I-N-T-R-O-V-E-R-T or I-N-T-R-A-V-E-R-T. Extrovert is the same thing. E-X-T-R-O or E-X-T-R-A. But this is started by a Swiss psychologist whose name was Carl Jung. Now, you spell his name J-U-N-G, but you don't pronounce it J-U-N-G. It's pronounced Jung. He was a psychiatrist years and years and years ago. And he divided people as introverts and extroverts. And I'm going to get into what the characteristics are, but let me show you this chart first. Introverts and extroverts. The introvert, as you can see by the picture, is kind of by themselves. They're shy, they're self-centered, they're by themselves. They don't mix in much with people. And the extrovert, and this is the way we look at it today, the extrovert, they like to be with people, they're outgoing, they're socially active. Now, the problem with this introvert-extrovert theory is that there's no crossing the line. There's nothing in the middle. If you're an introvert, you have certain characteristics. If you're an extrovert, you have certain characteristics, but there's nothing in the middle. You know, most people may be introverted sometimes, and some people can be introverted at other times, all within the same person. And so when you start to put people in categories and you kind of put them in a box and there's no mixing up, there's no in between, it's like this is black and this is white, and there are no shades of gray. And so therefore, you have to fit in one or the other. Now, I don't look at people that way. I don't think most people look at others that way either. But so what they did, some people who modified this theory, put ambiverts in the middle. So if you look down here, you have the introverts, you have the extroverts, and then in the middle section, you have ambiverts. Well, who are ambiverts? Ambiverts is like just a mixture of the introverts and the extroverts. People who have both characteristics. They're not black and white. They're shades of gray, which most of us are. And that kind of just changes the theory a little bit. So if you look at the bottom graph here, it's a bell-shaped curve. Your introverts are on this side, your extroverts are on the other side. Here's your median line right here. This would be the difference between them. However, you have these shades. You have this certain areas where this would be somewhat introverted and these people would be somewhat extroverted, so that there is kind of a mixture of the two, so you're not just going to be one or the other without mixing. I hate to classify people, and as I said in the last show that I did, don't get hung up on this stuff, because I don't get hung up on it. In some situations, I'm going to be quiet and reserved. In other situations, I'm not going to be quiet and reserved. I'm going to be at the forefront. And it depends upon the social situation that I'm in. And I would bet that what I'm saying about myself, that I'm saying about like 99 and 99 hundredths of you out there watching, because you can't encapsulate people. They're always, introverted, or they're always extroverted, or they're always quiet and shy, or they're always socially oriented. People are different. People are a mixture of things. It's like saying that there's such a thing as black and white and no gray, and that's obviously not true. There's night and day, but you have sunsets and you have sunrises. Things are different. And so therefore you have to accommodate that. So that's the introvert. But let me go into the characteristics of these people that have been listed. The characteristics of people who are introverted, and you might be able to pick out some that actually have to do with you. Feelings are hurt easily. This is for introversion. daydreams a lot, blush a lot, stay in the background, stage fright, reluctant to make friends, especially of the other sex, worry about misfortune. It's hard to make decisions. They're critical of others. They have a concern over gossip. They take care of their personal property well, and they respond to praise well. These are the characteristics, since we're running out of time, and I'll just read them off. These are the characteristics of extrovert. Extroverts also get their feelings hurt easily, but they seldom daydream. They make friends easily. They're the life of the party. They don't worry much. They laugh easily. They like doing oral reports rather than written ones. They accept orders from others. They don't do paperwork much. They have social contacts instead. And they have no self-pity, and they're good losers. So you see, the tendency is you may lean, I think, toward one or the other. You may lean by being more socially active and not so quiet, but you're probably not confined to that. You may lean toward being quiet and introverted and not wanting to have a lot of social contact with other people and wanting to be quiet and alone. But that doesn't mean that's the way you are all the time. So those are the characteristics, and there are theories based on that. And at next session, I'm going to get into other theories. There's all kinds of theories that try to categorize people according to one or the other. Theories based on color, your color preferences. There's a Lucia color test. There's also theories based upon what kind of pets you prefer, whether you are a dog lover or a cat lover. And so it goes on and on and on. There are many of them. But I want to take those that have been the most popular and have been used the most and just kind of touch base with them, because people still think in terms of these theories. So I'll close it here. Please join me next time.